What's up guys, my name is Brandon, welcome to Quick Flicks. Today we are covering I Am Legend, directed by Francis Lawrence, releasing in 2007. I Am Legend is a loose adaptation of the novel with the same name. Though I've never read the book, I understand that the stories do have some differences between one another. I won't be comparing the two throughout the video, but if you've read it, then let me know down below if there are any drastic differences between the stories. I Am Legend follows a doctor known as Robert Neville in Manhattan who is trying to cure a disease known as the Crippen virus. The film is pretty great, and Will Smith does some fantastic acting throughout. Now with all of that out of the way, let's jump into the movie. The movie opens up with a news broadcast explaining the Crippen virus, which is explained as a modified measles shot that cures cancer. 3 years later, we can see this actually ended up wiping out most of humanity. Even the Continental is all abandoned. I wonder what John Wick is up to. A man known as Dr. Robert Neville is seen cruising down the streets of Manhattan with his goodest girl in the whole wide world, Samantha, in a Ford Mustang he found. They get cut off by some deer, Robert doing a nifty little drift and chasing after them, trying to hunt one. He sneaks up on one, prepping to shoot it when a lion jumps on it, killing it. Robert, not wanting to freak with a group of lions for obvious reasons, stays still when his timer on his watch starts beeping, alerting him it's time to get the freak out of there. As he's leaving, we get a cool shot of some buildings, where we see a Batman vs Superman poster hanging up. Despite this film coming out almost a decade before, it was revealed by the director Francis Lawrence that this was just a joke, and that's all. Robert and Sam get home, eat some tasty food while watching old news footage, then do some bath time, when Robert's timer goes off once again, alerting him that it's time to lock up for the night. He lays in the bathtub with Sam while hearing absurdly loud noises outside, these being the Darkseekers. We then get a flashback to the beginning of the apocalypse. Robert goes to pick up his wife Zoe and his daughter Marley, who is actually played by his real-life daughter Willow Smith. Will has a thing for using his real kids in films, which is actually pretty neat. He alerts them that they are quarantining Manhattan, and he needs to get them out of there, while he stays behind and tries to figure this thing out. Marley attempting to make him feel better by making butterflies with her hands. Robert wakes up in present time, gets a little workout in with Sam, then heads down to his underground lab. He checks out some test subject rats that he gave a potential vaccine to. Half of the rats are still showing some aggressive signs, and some even died. However, one known as Compound 6 seems to be showing some positive signs, as his aggression has eased and has slight pigmentation return. He then determines the potential vaccine known as GA Series Serum 391 is ready for human trials. Robert then gears up and heads out with Sam. He runs by a DVD store, where he shows a bit of signs he's lonely by checking out a female mannequin and speaking with the cashier mannequin. He then turns on his daily radio broadcast, alerting anyone who may still be alive that he can give them food and security. While doing some golfing, Sam perks her head up, Robert checking it out and seeing a deer. They immediately track the deer, trying to capture it, when it runs into a dark abandoned building, Sam following behind. Robert freaks out knowing that the Darkseekers tend to stay in dark areas during the day, hence the name. Nothing's gonna stop him from saving that girl though, and he slowly makes his way through using his flashlight as safely as possible. He makes his way upstairs and finds the deer dead on the ground. He continues forward, accidentally flashing his light on a group of Darkseekers huddling in the dark. My god, that would be horrifying. The Darkseekers not noticing allows him to continue his search. He eventually finds Sam under a table, all scared, when he realizes there's a Darkseeker right behind him, feasting on the dead deer. He kills that fool, then takes off running, Sam and quite a few Darkseekers following behind. They catch up to him and almost bite his neck when he jumps out of a window, the daylight killing them pretty quickly. Sam shows up and the two are okay. Robert then sets up a really unique booby trap, attempting to capture one of the Darkseekers. He draws some blood and bashes the vial on a tarp he laid in the abandoned building. Moments later, it sets off, capturing a female Darkseeker, then knocking it out. This definitely doesn't make the big bad Darkseeker too happy. Robert takes the female subject back to his lab and attempts giving it the GA Series Serum 391 vaccine. It shows positive results for a few seconds as her breathing becomes more human-like and her temperature drops until she freaks out like crazy, then passing out and flatlining. He then gives it another shot of something. We don't know what it quite is. Could be the same shot they gave Nikki Sixx when he overdosed. All I'm saying is I'm not quite a medical professional. It might be an adrenaline shot, I don't really know. Anyway, the shot then brings her back to life. Giving up for the day, he goes downstairs and does a little recording of himself, explaining the events that occurred today. We also find out that Robert is immune himself. However, he has deemed it impossible to transfer that immunity to others. We then cut back to another flashback of Robert and his family running through crowds of people trying to escape Manhattan. Because of his military service, they get ahead of the line, where Zoe and Marley get into a helicopter to escape. Marley then tells baby Sam to protect Daddy, handing Robert that good girl. He waves goodbye and then wakes up the next morning once again. Him and Sam go out for a day of fun, but while driving, Robert notices Fred, one of the mannequins from the DVD store, sitting in the middle of the street. He goes berserk and loses his mind over this, going as far as to pull out his gun and blast that fool away. He makes his way over to the deceased mannequin when he steps into a puddle and sets off a trap, grabbing him by the leg and hanging him upside down. He hits his head on the ground on the way up, knocking him out. He comes to a few hours later after his watch starts beeping, alerting him it's time to get home. Luckily, he has a pocket knife on his person, and he uses it to get himself down, stabbing himself in the leg in the process. Robert, noticing the sun going down, starts crawling to the car. However, Sam notices something. Robert looking to see the angry Darkseeker guy from earlier with his trio of infected dogs. The main Darkseeker guy is actually credited as the Alpha Male, which is what I'll refer to him as for the rest of the video. He releases them, but they get burnt by a barrier of sunlight. It only lasts for a few seconds though. The infected dogs charging Robert and Sam. Sam saves Robert, taking on one of them. Robert then grabbing a pistol out of his vehicle, shooting one of them to death. Noticing Sam getting beat up, he attempts to shoot it, but gets interrupted by the other infected dog. Trying to get it off, Sam tackles it, allowing Robert to grab his firearm and put it down. He lays there for a second relieved, only to notice that Sam got bitten and beaten up pretty bad in that fight. He takes her home and attempts giving her the potential vaccine, but notices it's too late and she's already starting to show signs of turning. Sam shortly changes, and Robert sadly has to put her down. Literally the saddest death in any movie. The next day, he goes to bury her and drives around feeling lonelier than ever. Nighttime rolls around and Robert goes on a death mission, trying to get revenge for his girl. He sets up a decoy, attracting all of the Darkseekers, and then proceeds to attempt running all of them over. Things start going south as his car is getting beat up quite a bit. They run at his car, hitting it and flipping it over. The Alpha Male peeks in, getting ready to munch on Robert, when a whole bunch of bright lights get flashed at him, making all of the Darkseekers skedaddle. Robert, seemingly unconscious, notices a girl and a little boy help him into a vehicle and lets them know where he lives before fully passing out. While knocked out, we cut to our last flashback. Robert waving at his family goodbye, noticing another helicopter swinging out of control and flying directly into his family's helicopter, resulting in their deaths. Pretty sad. He wakes up the next morning on the couch to see Shrek on the TV. Robert, not taking any chances, gets a hidden gun and searches his house to find the lady, Anna, and the boy Ethan making breakfast. While eating, they chat for a bit and let him know they found him via his daily radio broadcast, alerting nearby survivors. She lets him know they are heading to Vermont to go to a survivors colony for sanctuary. Robert refuses to believe that's a thing and flips out. Later on, Robert quotes some Shrek, then heads down to his lab to inject the female test subject with the potential vaccine one more time. Nighttime rolls around, and while Robert is assuring Anna there's supposedly no god, they hear a horde of Darkseekers on their way. He quickly finds out they tracked them on the way home last night. He looks outside and confirms they did. Robert quickly activates spotlights, trying to keep the Darkseekers away, but that doesn't work too well, as they just destroy all of them. He then grabs a detonator and activates multiple bombs outside, killing quite a few of them. Robert goes to find Anna and Ethan when the Alpha Male comes out of nowhere, biting Robert on the neck and beating him up. Robert finds his assault rifle and scares the Alpha Male away. He then goes to find Anna and Ethan once again, but notices a Darkseeker on the roof. He runs in, grabbing a pistol on the nightstand, and kills it. They head to the front door only to see mass amounts of Darkseekers on the way. Robert demands them to get to the lab, where they hide in a room surrounded by very strong and thick glass. While in there, they notice the female test subject returning to her former human self, showing promising results from the vaccine. Robert tries getting the Darkseekers to let him save them, but they don't really care. The Alpha Male starts beating his head against the glass, slowly breaking it. The glass eventually makes a butterfly shape, Robert remembering his daughter. He quickly gets the vaccine and gives it to Anna. He then puts them in a coal chute and opens a drawer, pulling out a photo of his family and then a grenade. He pulls the pin as the Alpha Male finally breaks through. They run shoulder to shoulder and blow up, all of them dying. The next morning, Ethan and Anna make their way to Vermont and pull up to the survivor colony. The doors open, revealing an entire community, confirming it is indeed real. She hands them the cure, and we get a neat shot of the entire walled community, and the screen fades to black, ending the movie. However, there is an alternate ending that I honestly enjoy a lot more. Robert realizes the alpha male just wants his lady back, and that's all. Taking note of that, Robert apologizes and gives the female subject back to him. The Darkseekers then leave the basement, leaving Robert, Anna, and Ethan unharmed. Robert realizes that these creatures are quite intelligent and aren't just ferocious beasts. He looks at the photos of the test subjects, regretting hurting them for so long. He then decides to leave New York with Anna and Ethan and head to the survivor colony, that ending the alternate ending. Let me know down below which one you guys like more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.